My name is Kaylee, and this is my research for Lab 1 Animal Behavior Study. Let's get started. Okay, so the animal of my choosing for this lab was the common Pekin duck. While making my observations and examining Tinbergen's 4 levels of analysis, I found the Pekin duck's behavior to be quite inherent. A question of proximate causation in Tinbergen's mechanism that I alluded to for this study was why the Pekin ducks flock to people standing by the water's edge. Why do the Pekin ducks come up to the people who are closer to the water? Does seeing people come closer to the pond trigger a set of neuronal responses that may not be otherwise triggered? If this is the case, then what neurons are being transmitted and when is it occurring? Some questions at the ultimate level of Tinbergen's mechanism level for this topic may include what selective forces in the evolutionary past of Pekin ducks would have favored the individuals that responded to stimuli concerning people? Is the act of people coming near the water associated with a particular food source? Or how do other closely related bird species, such as other ducks like mallards, show similar responses to this type of stimuli? My answering hypothesis was this: Pekin ducks are curious and gather around the people who are close to the pond because they associate them with giving them food. Over time, ducks, especially domesticated ones near lakes or ponds, have become used to people and have conditioned themselves into holding these habits that have sustained them in the past. If we look at the development level of Tinbergen's study, we might ask how the interactions that a Pekin duck might have with people change with its future development as an organism. Or even, how will the developmental variation of a Pekin duck affect this behavior later in life? Well, according to the principles of animal behavior, if there is a variation in the tendency to copy the behavior of others, and that variation is due to certain types of genetic variation, then natural selection can act on the tendency to use culturally transmitted behavior as well. If anything is clear from my surroundings, it is that a lot of ducks have begun to gather around a main food source, which is why I believe that seeing people approaching the water or seeing other ducks begin to gather may trigger the "oh look, there's food" alarm that is in a Pekin duck's brain. If they were to ignore this, well then, that would be left on them to decide where to get their next source of food from, depending on their environmental factors or whatever sources they have available to them. Also, if we look at the survival value of Tinbergen's level of analysis, then we can question how behavior affects survival and reproduction. If they don't act competitively and rush over to get this food before the others, how might their chances of survival change? Will the reproduction rates increase or decrease, and how would the survival rates of their offspring look if that were the case? Upon looking at the evolutionary history, how their behavior varies as a result of evolutionary history may be important. Knowing when a behavior first appeared in the study of the evolutionary history of the species, in this case the Pekin duck, is important because it can help us understand its repetition or removal. If we do a quick critical evaluation of the animal's behavior, we know a few things from our observations. First being the Pekin duck acts curious when they see people near the water's edge. The Pekin ducks are especially attracted to people who appear to be holding something. Second being, if other ducks or birds are gathered, the Pekin ducks will hurry over to join in the fray because they assume food is there, which is when they will then start to compete with others to get the food being given out. Keep in mind that some quick hand movements may startle them, but others expressed outwardly makes the Pekin duck think that food is being thrown, aka they will rush in the direction you gesture. And lastly, if people just continue to stand there with no food after an inspection, or if the food runs out, the Pekin ducks will swim away and mind their own business until they see someone else who they find curious or think has food. This development suggests a few things. As a domesticated species of duck, they are conditioned to think people will feed them if they come up to the water at the pond. The Pekin ducks also have a history of being fed by people who have come up to the pond before. From this, they have learned to differentiate the people that want to feed them from those that don't. The Pekin ducks also associate objects and items in people's hands to be food related. The functional benefits for this would include getting there first if the people are giving out food, being fed and not having to forage as much, or situational awareness and enhancement, being always on the lookout, and etc. Thanks for watching this lab video.